Hello, I'm Kathleen Fargo, and I am doing a signature assignment for my Psych 636 class. I have a friend that has created a video for me to share with you. He is Dominic. He's going to be portraying a 9-year-old boy who's having difficulty communicating with his family and is having some uh, how could you say outbursts, but they're more just sounds like a yell or a grunts, um, and his parents are concerned because he is doing this at home, and they are arguing about communication, and they would like to see if we can help them. And I've agreed to watch the video um, of the young boy and see what I can do for him. So let's do that. And hello, my name is Dominique, and it's nice to meet you. Me and my parents are arguing and fighting over communication. They want me to learn and to communicate with the world in communication, not use ASL, but communicate. No hands, just talk. It doesn't matter how hard it is for me to communicate. They just keep pushing and pushing, and they want me to maneuver around in the world talking when I don't understand, and I'm tired of trying to communicate with them. It's they tell me, you know, it's not hard and that I need to try, and you know, the world won't accept me as I am and won't understand me, but they don't understand me. They 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 don't know how hard it is to lip read and to maneuver, and I make mistakes and people look at me like I'm stupid, and I don't like it. Maneuvering the world and communicating, I communicate. I, I talk to people all the time if they can communicate with me and have the ability to sign, and it's like, I go, oh my, thank God, and I just throw out the lip reading. It's too hard. It's very hard. And you know to speak and to lip read and go throughout a day, I'm exhausted, I'm tired, and then I come home and my family and and they're just always all around me, telling me, please, please, you know please learn to speak. It's the way. And I feel bad. It's like I really want to, but it's so hard. And I want to communicate with them, but my mom and dad, the way they communicate is not the way I communicate. It's different, and we need to learn to communicate together as a family. And I'll understand them, and then they'll understand me at home. Thank you. If you could help them to learn to teach them sign language so that they can talk to me and you. As a family, we love each other and need each other. Okay, so as you can see, there is a language barrier. He seems like a very uh, good boy. I didn't see any outbursts. Um, he did seem a little upset at not being able to communicate, but that may be just because of frustration. He may be frustrated. Um, he is having difficulty learning how to read, and things like this because he doesn't have the ability to learn language, written language, from the aspects that they're being taught. So might need some support for the teachers, and that can be gotten through many agencies and resources. And we might want to give some support and some understanding to his parents through organizations for parents, with children with, hearing disorders. There's different types of communication. There's spoken communication, there's written communication, and there's hearing communication. Children often with, that are presenting that are deaf and hard of hearing, we may want to have them assessed if they have not already been assessed by a experienced audiologist so we can see the best options. And this would also help the parents to find what's best for their child. There are a number of resources for them, whether it be hearing aids, cochlear implants. Um, there's many uh, technological tools. Apple has several out. There's the TTY for communicating in uh, phone calls. Um, Most people text nowadays, um, so that's a plus for the technology nowadays. Anyway, what I'd like to convey is that just because a child presents with hearing difficulties does not necessarily mean that they're going to present with a mental health issue. It may just mean that the family and the child need increasing support in their day-to-day lives. Um, and also, it does not mean that they will not present with a mental health concern uh, any more than, say, a child that's language is, Laotian or Hispanic and they speak Spanish only. They are learning their second language is the dominant language here in the United States when they come into your office, which is English. And we can give them support and we can give children who don't communicate the same way um, and they use their hands to communicate, we can give them support too. But like I'm saying, you can't really state what the child is, has or does not have based on language barriers. So we need to get rid of that language barrier and learn a basic amount of sign language. If you're able to greet the child in his language of sign, ASL, by just simply, when he comes into your office, he or she comes into your office, and you say, hi, um, how are you? It's nice to meet you. The child generally will erupt and speaking to you in sign language. They are starving for communication in many cases. Um, the, uh, the there with Dominique, I can't give him a mental health diagnosis based on these outbursts. They're nonviolent. They are the vocal is not of any language. That meaning they're not calling names. They're not being angry. They are showing, uh, you know, deep fits of frustration, according to the teacher and to, his parents. Um, he, in treating this, um, as I said before, it would need to be more on a person-centered therapy, which is what is recommended by the Board of Psychology when dealing with children and their families um, who have issues with, deafness or hard of hearing. Um, so it's primarily person-centered is what you're going to see with them. Um, and the issue is it's in the deaf culture, it's okay to touch. If you come up to a child and you simply put your hand on their shoulder, it is okay. It is a way of their communication to get them to, see that you want to speak to them or get their attention. So it is okay. The no tapping. It's just a solid hand on the shoulder is acceptable. If the child does not want to communicate with you once they have learned that you know some sign language and the child is just kind of listful, sits down and just really just does not pay attention to much around them, um, doesn't want to communicate, you may have to work a little bit on a rapport to see if there's something more there. To work on the rapport, I like to work with children with the arts, which is just basically, you can give them paper and uh, some, different colored pens or something where they can write, whatever they wish on there. They can draw in their paint, which would be a good because that's a very textile thing that they can do, and you can learn so much by observing them as to maybe there's a possible, problem um, that you might want to assess. Then I also like to use this game that I have. It's one of the oldest games known to mankind, and it's called Buttons. Buttons is good. Older children can learn this relatively easily. And buttons is basically there's these buttons and they have them. Let me show you like this. The buttons are in this box here, and then you teach them how to play the game. And it's kind of almost like a tic-tac-toe type of thing where they put the buttons inside the small graphs and they try to trap the individual's color. So if you have this, say this white button is in this corner, then you would trap the white button with your black markers, and then that's a win piece there. That's where that person would win. And with younger children, say younger than 5, you would just simply turn this board over, and then there is some carpeting in here. Children like to feel it, so that's good. They can, you can scatter some buttons inside here. Uh, and I encourage you not to scatter too many because if you have a child who has an outburst, you may have buttons all over your office. But that would be okay too because we could collect them later. But they can make faces with them. And you can ask them to make a happy face or how they're feeling, you know, and you would just simply state that by, how are you feeling, um, to uh, kind of encourage them to communicate their feelings. Um, they, Dominique was uh, developed some issues with depression, and likes later finding out that depression was just his frustration and inability to communicate. When we were able to get over those barriers, then he was able to have a better communication with his family and his teachers, and um, didn't have those, depression just kind of felt aside. Um, just the support was enough. Northern Regional uh, was able to support him and his family, and there are several resources out there for children that are deaf and hearing and their parents. Um, and that's, very important to give our families the resources that they need. The approach that we've used is person-centered, um, which is focusing on the person, the individuals, the family, their needs and their wants. Um, Medical staff, audiologists, and testing also can give the families the information, that they can use to move forward and make better decisions. Um, so medication was not needed in this case because the depression was due to not having the ability to communicate and be understood. Dominique was having, those issues because he was feeling like he wasn't understood. And he just, 9 years old, he wanted to feel like he was normal, um, and he wasn't. And he thought of himself as, outside of the uh, the groups at school. He was being made fun of because he was, he wasn't, interpreting what they were saying correctly. So he would be made fun of quite often. Um, but that also has, we created a sign language in his class so that students could communicate better with him. And then their lives are also enriched because they've learned a second language. So this is not something that the the families of the other children were against in any way. They thought that it was wonderful in most cases. So this is a very community type thing where all the resources and the individuals in Dominique's life came together to create an environment of learning. Um, and this was, s- a very satisfying advocacy for me. And I, you will end up having to advocate for the child. You'll have to advocate to the child sometimes, to parents, and teachers, staff members, all people that are working with the child in their development. Uh, the most resources you can find online in your community. Um, Here in Reading, we have Northern Regional that help children with deaf and disabled uh, issues and technology um, resources. They also help adults with the same issues, getting a job, getting trainings, and whatnot. Rehabilitation centers are great sources uh, for adults, or children over the age of 17 when they're kind of phasing out of their IPs. They it would be beneficial to seek those resources out for them if they return needing those assistance. Generally, you'll work with these children for most of their you know primary years. You'll be guiding and helping the parent. There are all kinds of support groups. Um, if there's no support groups in your area, it's a good idea to maybe form one. But I would like to say that I've enjoyed doing this presentation and studying this topic and advocating for deaf and hard of hearing children in their mental health. Communicating uh, is necessary for the mental health and development of adolescents and children. Um, and I'd like to thank you very much.